It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump. Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark, 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible. Over the one. Yeah, well, you're half right.
What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
And live from the south side of the Summit City, this is John Nolan pinch hitting for Brett. I'm in studio with producer Adam Lundy. We've got your local sports fix up until 6 on this day after the college football playoff national championship game between Notre Dame and Ohio State. The Buckeyes are champs, and we'll break it down. Want to hear from you. Get your reaction as well on last night's game, plus the outlook going forward for Notre Dame, and for that matter, anything else. Our Parkview Sports Medicine text line is 260-447-8500. That PSM text line 447-8500. Looking ahead next hour, you can call in as well, and we'll play some trivia. Free Pizza Hut at stake. Also on the program today, we'll hear from both the judge, Phil Houk, from FightingIrishPreview.com, and Dylan Sin from the Journal-Gazette. They were both in Atlanta last night. Judge Houk will be on in about 20 minutes as he makes the drive back here, while Dylan will be on next hour. He's currently waiting for his flight home. So that's might wind up being that Judge Phil driving beats Dylan here flying. But in any case, in case you missed it, yesterday there was some local baseball news. The 2-6 zones. Josh VanMeter, 2013 Norwell grad, he announced his retirement after appearing in more than 1,000 professional baseball games, including 300 in the show with the Reds, the Diamondbacks, and the Pirates. The former TinCap on his way up there originally in the Padres farm system. Josh will join us around 4:35, reflecting on his career, and maybe we'll find out what could be next for him as well. And with the college football season officially in the rear view, we'll dive more into the college basketball scene with Fort Wayne native, Southside alum Rayfel Davis from the Big Ten Network. Get his thoughts on his Boilers, the Hoosiers, and more. That'll come up around 5:35. The Purdue men, by the way, they play at Mackey tonight. That's at 7:30 against Ohio State. See if the Buckeyes men's basketball team's inspired by their football guys and could maybe pull off an upset on the road. And that game's going to be on Peacock in case you're looking to, in case you're going to be at home and looking to watch later on. Noah Eagle, Robbie Hummel on the call, but you can, of course, also hear it, though not here like usual. Instead, down the dial on 92.3 FM. Reason you won't hear it on these airwaves is because we've got really the game in the state tonight for girls high school basketball. Warsaw, undefeated, ranked number 3 in the state overall, 18-0 on the road at Homestead. The Spartans, number 5 in the state, 18-2. So not only the game of the night, but frankly, that's the game of the year so far, especially in Northeast Indiana. Josh Williams will have coverage of that one starting at 7:30. While we're at it on the subject of programming between the Sports Rush and that Homestead Warsaw game, stay tuned here tonight at 6 for the Mastodon Coaches Show. That's actually the reason that Brett's not here today and won't be here tomorrow either is because he's on the road with Purdue Fort Wayne men's basketball. They're playing up in the Detroit area tomorrow at Oakland in Horizon League action. It'll be the Dons' first time playing the Golden Grizzlies since they were eliminated by them in last year's Horizon League tournament. Of course, Oakland didn't stop there, went on to win the conference, ultimately shocked Kentucky in March Madness. Speaking of that Oakland run, probably remember Jack Golke became the face of March for a bit last year. He made 10 threes in that upset against Kentucky. Assuming you haven't kept up with him since, though. He's now in the G League with the Bucks affiliate in Wisconsin. as an aside, they were playing the Mad Ants down in Indy on Friday. I still do play-by-play for the Mad Ants games down there. Like 13 minutes of action on Friday night. Gohlke went 4 for 4 from 3. Just an amazing shooter. He didn't play until like late in the third quarter, so a lot of guys would be kind of cold, not in the flow of the game. Boom, off the bench, knocks down 4 threes that played a part in swinging the momentum of that game. And just another fun fact, he wasn't the only guy who went 4 for 4 from 3 in that game. Warsaw alum Kyle Mangus did as well for the Mad Ants. And now I'm wondering if Kyle has actually, maybe there's a good chance that he's actually helped train some of the girls on this current Warsaw team that is, again, having a spectacular season in their own right. Okay, Adam, last night, man, fun build-up to the game, had all the pomp and circumstance. Then that first drive, Notre Dame going 18 plays, eating up about 10 minutes of clock. Riley Leonard showing guts, then kind of throwing up his guts. I think if you were to script Notre Dame as an underdog, a considerable underdog in that game, pulling out a win, and that would have been, your opening scene right there to script. But Ohio State comes right back down, matches it. So you kind of got the bit of a reality check there all of a sudden. It wound up being 31 unanswered points for the Buckeyes. I don't think we knew it necessarily in real time, but to some level for me, Notre Dame lost this game on their second drive, or at least that was kind of representative of their downfall ultimately over the course of the night, because Ohio State, even with the losses that they had at Oregon and to Michigan, which was more of the head scratcher, right? They had the most expensive roster in college football history, a payroll of about $20 million in NIL. You know what? To the credit of those who constructed that roster, say this would just be a positive case of getting what you pay for. I mean, they probably had the most talented roster in the country. And, for Notre Dame, even if the talent gap wasn't as steep as it was the last time they were in the national championship 11 years ago against Alabama or some of the recent college football playoff losses in the semis that they had, the Irish still were at a talent disadvantage. And so for me, that meant that they had to play pretty much close to a flawless game. And technically they did win the turnover battle there, 1-0. But on that second drive, 3 and out, incompletion, penalty, all of a sudden you're looking at 2nd and 25, eventually had a punt there. I think just those penalties, those unforced errors in that case were something that they couldn't afford to have. And again, it kind of snowballed on them as well. And along the way there, too, I mean, I think just specifically on that drive, they never were able to get Jeremiah Love involved in the game. And one thing that's just amazing, and not a good way to look back at when you review the numbers from this game, Love finishing with 4 carries for a total of 3 yards. Here's a guy, rightfully so, had been praised as one of the best running backs not only in the country here this year, but in Notre Dame history. He becomes a non-factor. So I think, another big takeaway from this game for me was, seeing your best players shine. For Notre Dame, that didn't come through with Jeremiah Love. On the other side, the other Jeremiah Smith with the catch of the night, with kind of the nail in the coffin on that 3rd and long to go with another touchdown catch that he had. So he finished with 5 catches, 88 yards. Emeka Egbuka, 6 catches, 64 yards is, the other primary receiver for the Buckeyes. So, and not to mention Will Howard, tip your cap to him, the championship game record starting off 13 for 13, close to flawless type of night for him, finishing 17 of 21, more than 230 yards, a couple of touchdowns. So I just think Notre Dame, they didn't have much margin for error. They made some of those errors, so to speak. And, well, I guess credit to them for the resilience they did show in the second half, making it close. Although, I'm honestly surprised there hasn't been more. Well, I wouldn't say that there hasn't been second guessing, because I think nobody would agree with Marcus Freeman's decision to go for the field goal in the second half in that spot down by 16 points in the fourth quarter. I'm kind of surprised he just hasn't been pressed for it more. I will say that I think just the general sense here from I guess whether you're a Notre Dame fan or just a general college football fan, like it kind of polite applause for Notre Dame's spirited effort. Yeah, but I guess at the end of the day, then that shows that there is a difference in the expectations for the programs where Ohio State truly was having the expectation of being national champs. Notre Dame, to some degree, satisfied, I would say, with getting there. What did you think last night?
Yeah, it was interesting how quickly the momentum shifted after that first drive for Notre Dame. They just looked like a very well-scripted drive. It takes a lot of time off the clock in the first quarter. And then, like you said, Ohio State answers right back. And then after that, the momentum just shifted with that drive by Notre Dame just being a 3-and-out. And then Ohio State scoring again. I kind of felt from that point on that Ohio State was going to kind of run away with this one. And it did kind of end up being that way. They end up hitting pay dirt 3 times in the second quarter for 21 points. And to me, that was already the game kind of put away there. I didn't feel like Notre Dame had it in them to even score 14 more points. Granted, they did come back and score 16 more in the second half, but it was already too late as Ohio State had added another 10 points in the third. So what I said yesterday when I was talking to Brett about the game, I was going to say Notre Dame's defense is going to have to make Will Howard make some crucial mistakes, some interceptions, some fumbles, things like that, and they didn't get to him at all. He was 17 of 21, very good from the passing field. 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's going to be too good of a performance from Will Howard for almost any team to beat Ohio State.
Yeah, and when it mattered most, he recognized the man-to-man coverage there.
Yeah.
On the outside, and Notre Dame not even having their top cornerback there on Smith. A regrettable situation in itself. But yeah, you knew that Notre Dame was going to have to was really going to have to rise to the occasion. Even another coulda, woulda, shoulda moment there early in the second half with the fake punt, where you get Steve Angeli with a pretty solid pass, and Jordan Faison can't haul it in. Again, just you needed to rise to those moments, and Notre Dame didn't. And to be clear, I'm not trying to come across here as a Notre Dame hater. My name is John Nolan. I'm Irish Catholic. I grew up as a Notre Dame fan. But just it is what it is. And one thing we'll talk about later, I do just find it interesting that there is something of a love fest with Marcus Freeman. And don't get me wrong, highly respect him, highly admire him, give him his flowers for what he did here with Notre Dame this year. But just sort of the narrative or the feeling, the vibes in today's terms, the vibes towards Marcus Freeman compared to roughly a decade ago with Brian Kelly also getting Notre Dame to a national championship game in the third year. I just think it's interesting, and this is actually something we can all kind of abstract in our everyday lives, right? Let's just say potentially, I know they're not identical resumes, but pretty similar resumes, but you just do have a different sense because Marcus Freeman's the type of guy who can literally smile through adversity and is, just a sharp-looking guy versus Brian Kelly, curmudgeon-y, gets so angry his face is turning purple, he's pounding the table and whatnot. So you can have two people kind of do the same thing, but one is going to be a positive presence, going to make you feel better about yourself, going to be kind of whatnot, and Brian Kelly just more prickly around the edges. I just do think, though, that Brian Kelly sort of is not necessarily, and I understand it because the way that he left, and, that stunk, and it was, a good part, a slap to the face, really, of Notre Dame. But I actually just think that Brian Kelly maybe does deserve a little bit more credit for the job that he did during his time in really building Notre Dame up. I guess I just kind of scratched my head at some of the takes, like, oh, Marcus Freeman has Notre Dame, back. And again, it just comes down to the feelings because of the new format here of the playoffs. I was able to pick up a couple of huge wins there, really starting with IU and then especially, no offense to the Hoosiers, but when you think about programs like Georgia and Penn State that are perennially on that level too. So things are not even, but at the end of the day, Brian Kelly got Notre Dame to a national championship game as a runner-up too. That's what Marcus Freeman has done here through 3 years. Interested to talk more about this as we go forward, because I think if you look at Notre Dame's schedule next year, it's, I think, a lot more difficult than they dealt with in the regular season this year. So the path to trying to repeat this and get to that next level of holding up the trophy at the end, I think it's going to be even harder for Notre Dame next year, despite what some might say about the culture that they have created. Nothing to take away from it, but, it's nice to talk about culture when you've got the wins there. They won't be quite as easy to rack up next year. So, as a reminder, our Parkview Sports Medicine text line is 260-447-8500. Especially want to get your reaction to Notre Dame, Ohio State from last night. That said, Adam, the world moves on. Fill us in on what else is happening.
Let's do it, John. Well, like you mentioned, the Ohio State Buckeyes visit number 11 Purdue men's basketball after John Mobley Jr. scored 22 points in Ohio State's 77-76 loss to the Indiana Hoosiers on Friday. You can hear the call of the game tonight on our sister station 92.3 FM with a tip-off at 7:30 p.m. Speaking of Purdue basketball, 2026 top 25 guard Tay Kinney is currently on an official visit to Purdue. Kinney is one of the top guard prospects in the 2026 class. He recently cut his list down to 15 schools, which include the likes of Kentucky, Kansas, Arkansas, Illinois, and others. A fun one here for you today, John. An 11-year-old collector in Los Angeles has scooped up a one-of-a-kind baseball card featuring National League Rookie of the Year, Paul Skeens. Topps announced today that the card, which features the Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher's autograph and a patch from a game-worn jersey, has been found. The collector could get a massive haul if he's willing to trade the card to the Pirates, who have put together a package that includes 30 years worth of season tickets behind home plate at PNC Park in exchange for the card. And Paul Skeens' girlfriend, LSU gymnast and influencer Livy Dunn, is offering the card's owner the opportunity to take in a game with her in a luxury suite at the ballpark during one of Skeens' starts. There's no word on the market cash value, though, as of yet. And taking a look at tonight's high school basketball games for you with the cold weather in the area, a lot of games tonight have been postponed. I'll go ahead and go through the list real quick of all the games that have been postponed tonight, starting off on the girls' side. In the SAC, Black Hawk at Concordia is going to be varsity girls only. Woodland at Bishop Luers has been postponed. NE8 girls action, Belmont at Garrett, DeKalb at Bluffton, East Noble at Prairie Heights, Jay County at Norwell, all postponed tonight. ACAC girls, Adams Central at Heritage, South Adams at Fort Recovery of Ohio, and Southern Wells at West Dell have been postponed. NECC girls, all games postponed except for Fairfield at Central Noble and Lakeland at Cherubusco. Only one game that has not been postponed on the boys' side of action tonight. That's in the Allen County Athletic Conference. The Jay County boys taking on Hagerstown at 7:30 tonight is still on. However, Homestead at Columbia City, DeKalb at Angola, Canterbury at Huntington North, Homestead at Columbia City, Westview at Leo, and Prairie Heights at Bethany Christian have all been postponed. So stay warm out there.
Yeah, seriously, hope everyone within reason, stay warm.
As warm as you can.
Stay inside, please. Be safe, be careful, especially as you're driving around. But good stuff there, Adam. I like that Paul Skeens story. I hadn't seen that one. And just speaking as a baseball fan, I think we, even if here locally, we wish that Paul Skeens wasn't a rookie this past year to edge out former TinCap Jackson Merrill for the NL Rookie of the Year. Paul Skeens seems like a really good guy. I've enjoyed seeing him a couple of times or hearing from him on the Dan Patrick Show here on these stations. And even just as last week, Bob Uecker passed away, then I saw a video and photos from when the Pirates played in Milwaukee earlier this year. Skeens went out of his way to want to meet Bob Uecker. So I think it's cool that a guy like him, young 20s, can, connect with an 11-year-old fan like the story you shared, but then also has the reverence for an icon like Bob there, who was about 90 years old. And now I'm just wondering, though, for that 11-year-old who got that experience, is he more excited about getting to meet Paul Skeens or Livy Dunn?
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
One last baseball-related thing here for a minute, too. Looking ahead to the 6 o'clock hour tonight, that's when the Hall of Fame election results will be announced. Ichiro is basically a lock, and then it's a question of if he gets any company going into Cooperstown in the summer. Billy Wagner has been close, former lockdown closer, once played in the Midwest League himself, actually, and then CC Sabathia, Felix Hernandez are some recent retirees that might have a shot. So we'll be looking to that in a bit as well. Take a time out. When we come back, we'll check in with the judge, Phil Houk from FightingIrishPreview.com. In this case, get the post-mortem from the judge. This is the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
This is Mike Nutter, team president of the Fort Wayne TinCaps. And you're listening to the Sports Rush with Brett Rump on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
And this is John Nolan from the Fort Wayne TinCaps in for Brett today. He's on the road with Purdue Fort Wayne men's basketball. They're in action tomorrow night at Oakland in Horizon League play. And in case you missed it, back on Friday, we did hear from the Padres announcing the TinCaps coaching staff for the 2025 season. That'll start on Friday, April 4th. Lucas Ray, 28 years old. He will be the new TinCaps manager. But we'll have plenty of time to gear up for the baseball season. Here today, the day after the national championship game, first ever 12-team playoff in college football. Notre Dame making it down to Atlanta, but falling short last night against Ohio State. And now we're joined by a guy who's with the Irish really every step along the way. I know he's probably already gearing up for spring practice himself after a little bit R&R, but at Notre Dame Stadium every Saturday, on the road throughout the playoffs as well. And that's the judge, Phil Houk, who I believe is traversing back from Atlanta right now by car. Is that correct, Judge?
That's correct, John Nolan. It's great to talk to you, and that talking to you makes me think of baseball season. And I haven't thought of anything but football for about 7 months now, so it's kind of cool to think of some other sports that exist.
Yes, well, we know we'll see you at some Dons games soon enough, too. But, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah, we're on our way back from, a late night last night, as you might imagine. And, a tremendous spectacle. I think college football really did it right with this event, and it had everything except the storybook ending for the Irish. But it was great. It was a great privilege to be able to cover that as a journalist. And the Irish, it just too much out of that. Ohio State, a very physical team, and they just had too many weapons, and the Irish just couldn't complete the comeback last night, but played hard to the end, and here we go.
Yes, and you did an outstanding job throughout the way at fightingirishpreview.com and on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I texted you last night when I was listening to Fighting Irish Preview here on the radio, and you worked in, because I know you're a Bruce Springsteen fan, worked in the song "Working on a Dream," which in a way was really representative of the vibe for Notre Dame going into last night's game. Just curious, as a longtime Notre Dame supporter and someone covering the team, for that matter too, what song would you say maybe now, Bruce or otherwise, sort of matches your mood here now in reflection on the season?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot a little bit there, but I'll tell you what my mood is right now is it's not the same as it was in 2012 when Notre Dame lost the national championship, and it's not the same as it was in 2018 when Notre Dame lost in the first round of the CFP, and it's certainly not the same as it was in 2020 when they lost in the first round of the CFP, because there is a very much there's got to be some song out there, John, about something like a new age, man, because I think Notre Dame program is definitely now going in the right direction, and it's still very, very positive as to the future of this program. Now, next year, Notre Dame is going to face an extremely difficult schedule right off the top. They will open at Miami, Hard Rock Stadium, the site of the Orange Bowl victory a couple weeks ago. And then they come home and they're going to play Arkansas, and then they've got a couple of other ranked.
Yeah, Boise State at some point.
Boise State, right? That's the one I was trying to think of. So they've got a tough road to hoe next year, and they're going to have some holes to fill. New day. There's got to be a song called "New Day," so it will be a new day for the Irish starting next year. But a lot of firepower is back on that offense, and we'll get a chance to maybe see a quarterback who's going to be there for more than just 1 year. Next year will mark the 6th straight year that Notre Dame will have a different starting quarterback for the first game of the season. Think about that. 6 straight years with somebody different as your starting quarterback. But they're going to take a chance. I think C.J. Carr will probably be the guy. But Steve Angeli may have something to say about that in the spring. But look for C.J. Carr to maybe be a multi-year starter for the Irish going into next year. You got everybody back on the offensive line. You got Jeremiah Love. You got Jadarian Price in that backfield, and Aeneas Williams also played really well as a running back. You got Jaden Greathouse, who had a big game yesterday. What'd you think of Jaden Greathouse's game yesterday, John? He had 130 yards, I think, receiving. He had 6 catches. He had 2 touchdowns. He's a player, and Notre Dame lacked that kind of player, not like Ohio State had, but maybe he'll develop into that for the Irish.
Yeah, no, Greathouse, extremely impressive. I mean, especially that second touchdown, making the catch in spite of defensive pass interference. That was pretty wild to see him raise his level of play. A question for you, though, and do want to follow up on sort of the thoughts going forward here in a moment, but just looking back at last night, Tuesday morning quarterback, I suppose, if you will. Just your thoughts, when you step back and you see Jeremiah Love finished with 4 carries for a total of 3 yards. Granted, at some point the game got away and they had us basically abandon the running game, but just in the first half still, your thoughts on Love not getting involved anymore, and in general, just anything you do come away from the game with, some lamenting.
Well, I was really surprised. We thought going into the game, and we had been led to believe that he was in much better physical condition, Jeremiah Love was, going into last night's game than he had been going into the Penn State game. Something along the lines of Penn State, he's like 70-75%. If you remember the Penn State game, he was wearing a brace on that knee, yet he still managed to pull off the big 2-yard touchdown, the greatest 2-yard touchdown run you'll ever see, along with one of his hurdling antics on another play with that knee. He had 8 days to get ready for the game last night and didn't wear the brace, and we thought, hey, he's good to go, but apparently he really wasn't. And the way the game went, the Irish suddenly started having to pass the ball pretty quickly when they fell behind after, they score on the first drive, 18 plays. Riley Leonard ran the ball 9 times on that first drive, and Marcus Freeman said afterwards, he says, look, because people ask him, well, why didn't you just keep running him? They go, it's not sustainable. We could not keep running him and having him take that punishment. We had to find other ways to move the football. But by that time, Ohio State really had dialed in, I thought, what they needed to do defensively, and their offense, obviously, their offense didn't punt the ball until 6 minutes left in the game. I mean, they just had it going last night. And for Notre Dame to have been successful in that game, they had to thread a little bit of a needle, and that would have meant they were going to have to find a way to get Ohio State out of their game a little bit, much like Michigan had done at the end of the regular season. But last night, Ohio State did not get out of their game at any point and just had everything, and Notre Dame could not run the ball. 56 yards total for the Irish rushing the ball. Riley Leonard had 40 of those yards. That's domination against a team that had run the ball so well all season long for the Irish.
Yeah, definitely. If Notre Dame was going to pull it off last night, needed a little bit more in the running game like they had all season long. Probably needed more in terms of creating some extra turnovers as well. But with Judge Phil Houk right now from FightingIrishPreview.com, and just going back to your optimism for the future. So I'm glad you weren't going to say that you were just listening to Darkness on the Edge of Town or maybe a little Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb. You say that it's definitely a difference here for this Notre Dame program now compared to 11 years ago against Alabama, the recent semifinal losses that weren't that competitive. Why is that the case for the future? What has changed for the program?
Well, I think you see the culture that, Brian Kelly thought that they couldn't get there, right? That's why he left. He went to a program where he thought that he could win championships. What Marcus Freeman has done is I think he has embraced what makes Notre Dame different and said, I'm going to use that to build my program as opposed to just trying to do it like everyone does it. So Notre Dame is different where it counts, and it's going to be in the culture area. And the culture that we saw develop on this football team this year was inspiring. It was inspiring to so many people that came in contact with the program during the year and followed the story. And that's something that I think is sustainable as long as Marcus Freeman stays there. He's a demanding coach who really came to maturity as a coach after that Northern Illinois game. But his players will do anything for him, and he builds such team unity. We saw it by sitting in press conferences. We saw it by sitting and talking to these players back and forth, how much they cared. And you saw that they didn't crawl up in a ball last night when they gave up 31 straight points. They kept coming, and they kept trying to figure it out, and they kept playing hard. That can be the Notre Dame that can finally get to the promised land. I hope during my lifetime. I don't know. But fortunately, in my lifetime, I have seen 4 national titles. It would sure be nice to see another one. But I think they're on the track. They're right there on the verge. Last night, I thought you saw the 2 best teams in the country in that game last night, so that's how close Notre Dame is.
Yeah, no question. The gap's certainly not what it was in recent years, so we see that progress.
And one more thing I'd like to say about, Notre Dame is not going to get many of those 5-star kids. So that's what Marcus Freeman has embraced. He says, player development, we'll minor in the portal, we'll major in our player development, we'll bring in the 4-star kids that fit our culture, and that's how we're going to do it here. And by golly, he almost pulled it off. So we'll see. Future's bright as long as Marcus Freeman's staying there. Now we're concerned about losing the defensive coordinator, and I don't know if you followed that story, but it looks like
Al Golden will be going to the Bengals, most likely, it seems.
It would seem that's the case. He was very coy last night when the topic was brought in post game, but he loves Notre Dame. I have no doubt about that. He really appreciates the athletes that they've developed in working with Marcus Freeman. Maybe that'll keep him there, but I do know that he wouldn't have to recruit, and he could probably double his salary if he goes to the NFL. So who knows? Maybe he will.
That would be understandable. Well, finally here, Judge, and by the way, I want to say, as far as inspiring goes, and nothing against what this Notre Dame team did this year, but it's inspiring. I know you went through your own health struggle in recent years, overcoming cancer, and we just thank you for the incredible job that you do in covering Notre Dame, not only for FightingIrishPreview.com, but on these airwaves on a weekly basis as well during the season. And so just for you and your team, I know you've had a growing team supporting you in that coverage. Just any takeaways from the experience of being down there at the national championship game?
Yeah, it's a great, for kind of a one-man band like I am, and I'm not a one-man band anymore, though I do have a great support. One of my photojournalist that I get to work with, who's driving the car right now, Chad Ryan. A lot of people around Fort Wayne know him. He's extremely talented and has brought a lot to the Fighting Irish Preview coverage. But we also had my oldest son, who is a budding photographer. He's in a different line of business, but he's very creative, and he's taken a lot of photos in his life. To have him as part of the team last night, too, we had 2 photographers down there. We're working with interns who are all dedicated to the idea of covering Notre Dame football within the brand Fighting Irish Preview. And so we've done a lot this year over social media. And, you feel you become a band of brothers when you're traveling with people and you're in not a foreign town, but a faraway place, living in hotel rooms and figuring out where you're going to get your next meal and how do you get to the media room and all that stuff. And it's a great experience. It's a wonderful experience I would wish for anybody to be able to go through and be on the journey that I was on for the last, I don't even remember Christmas, John. That's all I can say. But I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if I missed you.
Right. Well, on the drive home now, in case you need a detour off to any of the road stops, to make sure you go in and make sure you got presents here for the for the wife and some other loved ones here when you're finally back. But no, thanks again, Judge. Notre Dame's kind of in a class of its own with the way that it runs its program, and in a similar fashion, you guys do a first-class job as well. So thanks so much, and safe driving.
And congratulations to Ohio State. Terrific football team. Best team in the country, without a doubt. Great talking to you, John.
Okay, there was Judge Phil Houk from FightingIrishPreview.com. Again, you can keep up with coverage not only on the website, but Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And soon enough, Judge will have coverage of spring ball coming up. Speaking of the spring, we are going to talk a little bit of baseball. We'll be joined by the 260's Josh VanMeter, who announced yesterday his retirement from playing. Get his thoughts on that and find out what's in store. That's when the Sports Rush continues on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
This is Purdue Fort Wayne men's basketball coach John Kaufman, and you're listening to the Sports Rush with Brett Rump on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Go Dons!
And Brett is with Coach Kaufman and the Dons. They're busing up to the Detroit area. They'll be playing at Oakland tomorrow night. So this is John Nolan filling in. Thanks for making us part of your Tuesday. And, I've been calling games for the TinCaps now for about a decade. It started with the team as an intern in 2013. So over the course of that time, I've called more home runs than I can count or remember. But I don't think any was ever bigger than this on the final day of the 2014 TinCaps season, a game that they needed to win to make the playoffs.
Top of the seventh inning, no score. 0-2. Swinging a fly ball hit deep to right field. Torres goes back. He looks up, and that ball is gone! 3-run homer, Josh VanMeter! And the TinCaps take a 3-0 lead. Josh VanMeter with a 3-run homer in the top of the seventh inning to the scoreboard in right center, and the TinCaps lead 3-0. The Fort Wayne faithful on hand in Kentucky standing behind the TinCaps dugout on the first base side. Only his third home run of the year. It comes on the last day of the regular season.
Down there in Bowling Green, Josh would go on to add another RBI hit in that game. The Caps won it. They made the playoffs. And so on a team that included Trey Turner, it was VanMeter who was the real hero, and that was fitting as the only player in Fort Wayne's franchise history to hail from the 260 and be an everyday player. He'd go on to hit 19 big league home runs as well in those 300 major league games, and it's a privilege for us to be joined by Josh now after he shared the news of retiring from his professional baseball playing career yesterday. Josh, thanks so much for the time. Major congratulations. And just what goes through your head when, hopefully I sound a little bit better these days, but what goes through your head when you hear that home run call?
Oh, man, thanks so much. It honestly brought back so many memories just hearing that. As you were going through the call, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like an 0-2 slider, and I don't remember it. I kind of blacked out when I hit it, but then, yeah, it just kind of brought back all those emotions. And and this time it's cool to hear that stuff again, and makes you go back and you see all you accomplished, and it's super refreshing to hear that. That was really, really cool to hear.
Well, a heck of a run, man. How are you feeling here today as you enter a new chapter in life?
Yeah, that's kind of like a loaded question, because I tell people all the time, all I've ever known is baseball, and that's all I've ever wanted to do. It's all I've really planned on, and now that it's over, it's been I would say it's been a big relief, to be honest. It's obviously super bittersweet. So much work was put into it to not be bittersweet, but I'm at peace. I really, a lot goes into this decision. You don't make this decision lightly, and but it was a super obvious decision for me, super easy decision for me. And, I'm excited for the future. I don't know exactly what the future entails. But I'm ready for the new challenge. And, I look to, speaking of challenges, I'm kind of being a full-time dad right now. So that's really taken up a lot of my time. And, I've been enjoying it, and I look forward to the future for sure.
No, that's beautiful to hear. Yeah, for those who don't know you beyond the baseball field, you're married, you have a little guy at home. So obviously, and I know how appreciative you are of all the family support that you've had with your family in Ossian. But of course, you've got a lot to still be focused on at home.
Yeah, no, it's been super good. This would be like the time where I would be like super, worried about if I was ready to go back to spring training, make sure I gotten everything done. And honestly, just being a dad has taken so much time. It's made it go super smooth. I haven't even really given any thought. So it's been super good. It's been super refreshing. And, it's been a good time for sure.
Yeah. So we played back that one home run call from your time with the TinCaps. And I'm sure you've had plenty of reminiscing about that time that you had 2014-15 and overcoming a awful leg injury, broken leg as well during your time playing at Parkview Field and around the Midwest League. But ultimately accomplishing that dream that millions have in such a small, less than 1% ever achieve of playing in the major leagues. What are some of the memories that really do come to mind when you look back at your baseball career? Not to mention, I should throw in too, probably some really great glory days playing for the Knights and leading them to state and some of the fun of travel ball and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for anybody, as you get to the end of your career, you definitely take on, personally for me, having our first child, it really gave me a lot of perspective on kind of all that I had accomplished. And man, there's so many memories, but the few that stick out, even going back to high school when we won the state championship our senior year, that still sticks out as like one of the best accomplishments. Me and my classmates, guys that I'd played with in the summer, like we'd always talked about winning the state championship, and we ultimately did. And that was kind of like, you never forget that moment of just like ultimate success. So that sticks out as one. And then, obviously just the championships you win through the minor leagues. Like we won the Southern League when I was in Pensacola in AA one year, going to the playoffs with the TinCaps. You remember those teams, you remember the players from those teams. And then obviously, the personal successes you have of making it to the big leagues, you never forget, making a debut. And the first real stat I had is I had a stolen base off Buster Posey. So that was kind of my like claim to fame in my debut. And moments like that, first homer, I don't forget any of the homers. I think I remember every single homer, but the list goes on. I think, just even making it is just such a huge accomplishment and something that, you don't want to take for granted. And all the moments from there on out are great. The successes, the failures, you learn from all of them. And when I was able to take a step back and just, gain that perspective that no matter whether it was a success or a failure, it's a success at the end of the day because you put so much work into it and, you do make it, like you said, one of the few that make it. So, it was a great experience and, something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life for sure.
Yeah, as you should, and so much to be proud of. And then, Josh, really, those of us from the TinCaps are just around Northeast Indiana. We should really be thanking you too, because not only did you make it, but you always handled yourself with such grace and class, and I just couldn't ask for a better representative on a big stage, the biggest stage in baseball, than the way you conducted yourself. And so I know I speak for everyone around here, just how proud we are of you, and how fun it was to be along for the ride. I guess you could say, and you pointed out there some of the really cool aspects of your career. I don't think I realized that stolen base came off Buster Posey. So I was gonna, I mean that's awesome in itself. I was gonna ask a few quick hitters here.
Go for it.
Whether in the minors or in the majors, who is the best pitcher you faced?
Oh man, best pitcher. Gosh, I mean, Jacob deGrom was pretty good. I would say big leagues, like deGrom was like the guy that was just like, I knew it was coming and I still couldn't hit it, and that means the guy's pretty good. Minor leagues, I'm trying to think of like Mike Soroka, who was a big prospect with the Braves. I always played like the Braves prospects at the upper minor leagues, and he was the one guy that I remember. I think it was like 2000. I don't know, 17 or 18, he dominated the Southern League. He was really good. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, those are good ones. How about best teammate? Again, at any level.
Oof. Oh man, there's too many to name.
Okay, I think I might know the answer to this one, but favorite place to play?
Ooh, it's got to be Parkview Field in Fort Wayne.
No, I think you can answer with the big league venue that you used to go to as a kid.
Yeah, Wrigley Field for sure. Used to go there with me and my dad would go every summer, and ultimately getting to play at Wrigley Field was literally a dream come true.
And one last one of these. How about the best perk of being a big leaguer besides the paycheck?
The food and the travel, without a doubt.
Yeah, I bet. We'll have to ask some more detail about that at a future conversation.
Without a doubt.
Well, just to wrap up here, Josh, we're joined by Josh VanMeter, former TinCap and big leaguer, who announced his retirement yesterday on social media. Follow him to stay tuned on what's next. And I know you mentioned it's not quite clear for you yet, but I guess what's rattling around in your head as some possibilities beyond being a husband and father.
Yeah, the game gave me so much. The game blessed me and my family with so much, and looking to, I would love to give back to the community using the game of baseball, the game that gave me so much. Hope to inspire the next wave, and I really think I would love for there to be another Josh VanMeter, that comes out of the area that gets to the big leagues. Another Zach McKinstry, another guy. There's too much talent in the area. The city's too big for us to not be putting out really good players year in and year out. I just truly believe that, and I look to help in that area, and I look to grow the game and just be a positive role model. To the community using the game of baseball. It's something that I'm super interested in.
I love it, and we know you'll be successful whatever you do next. We already got a taste of how, you can excel as a broadcaster. Felt like you were like baseball's Tony Romo when you jumped in with me for a game that last week of the season at Parkview Field. But, again, congratulations, Josh. Thanks so much. And I look forward to seeing you at Parkview Field, whether up in the press box, maybe you can be on the other side of a Thirsty Thursday for a change. Or,
that's right. That's right. I'm looking to enjoy one of those for sure.
Yeah, you should get at least one, and then, we'll get you back out for the Sunday family days.
That's right. That's right. The quick turnaround, that's what we'll get dialed in.
All right. Well, thanks, Josh. Best of luck.
Yeah. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. There was Josh VanMeter, the kid from Ossian, who went on to shine in the show representing the 260. Great first hour. It feels like it always flies by when I get a chance to jump in here for Brett. Still want to hear from you coming up in hour number 2. Our Parkview Sports Medicine text line is 260-447-8500. Your reaction to last night's national championship game between Notre Dame and Ohio State. Maybe any memories you have of seeing Josh play. Maybe you had a chance to see him in Little League down there in Ossian or at Parkview Field, or maybe even in the major leagues. Whatever's on your mind, want to hear from you. And looking ahead to hour number 2, you can even call in and play some time capsule trivia with us on this Tuesday. Plus, we'll get reaction from Dylan Sin, who was at the national championship game last night, and talk some hoops with the former Southside Archer, Rayfell Davis. This is the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.